is Jeremy. He came to our research facility in 1992. He raced endurance, and his career had ended due to respiration allergies and asthma. So he was donated to our research facility. The photograph on the upper left is us in training again, and the one on the right is a photograph taken after he won the Midwest Regional Championship in 1994. Advance. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jeremy. He was a half Arabian, half standardbred gelding. He came to us when he was 10 years old, and he was 16 free hands. The conditions that he had upon his arrival and inability to compete at this time was asthma and respiratory allergies. The treatment that he came with was clenbuterol and bitopilmin and corticosteroids. Conditions that developed later included arthritis or degenerative joint disease, equine metabolic syndrome caused by a tumor on the pituitary gland, and a mass tumor in the large colon, which ended Jer's time with us at the age of 22. Next. To talk a little bit about arthritis so that you can understand what happens inside those joints, I'm going to provide a photo of a joint that will give you a little bit of concept of the anatomy of it. Osteoarthritis, or JDJ, is when the cartilage protecting the bones of the joint are destroyed. Synovial fluid are the large molecular structures of hyaluronic acid, which are tangled and prevent inflammatory cells from gaining entrance to the joint. So what happens when arthritis comes about? Well, the cartilage breaks down, the body attempts to repair the damage, and at the same time try to regain stability. So it will place bone in the joint, because bone is a lot easier and has more blood flow and can have access to that joint more so than repairing cartilage. So this is where you will see bone spasms, bone spurs. There's other terms for it. You can also see inlay of bone on both structural bones of the joint, where the middle of the joint begins to crush, where the structural bones are almost to the point of touching and rubbing each other. Further damage, you have the synovial fluid that thins, the synovial lining becomes inflamed, white blood cells invade the joint space. White blood cells, when they're introduced, release destructive substances, one of those being enzymes from white blood cells, which break down the hyaluronic acid molecules in the joint. Next. So our original plan of action to help Jer manage the arthritic conditions which he started exhibiting was joint pain, heat, stiffness, inflammation, of course. We also heard some grating or grinding in the joint, and there was decreased performance. Next. In this x-ray, you can see in Jeremy's case, when we have the inlay of the bone on both structures, or both structural bones, that joint begins to shrink, and there becomes very little cushion in between the structures. And that's where a lot of the pain and stiffness and inflammation can come from. Some of the alternative modalities that we turned to assist with the onset of arthritis was chiropractic care to create more flexibility and open up the joints. We incorporated Farrier to come in and help us balance his feet, assist with forward motion to relieve some of the stress off the joint. We added oral supplements. We also did a lot of stretching before we did any work or exercise. And really, at one point, we put the brakes on and we just decided to give him a break and let the body try and heal itself. And he thought this was a pretty good idea for a while. We added Adequan IM injections, Legend IV injections, and orally we used Cosequin, MSM, chondroitin sulfate, acupuncture, and homeopathy we incorporated later, and magnetic therapy, which we used. A lot of these, as you know, very costly, but we were really trying to get Jeremy back on his feet and learn at the same time so that we can help you guys know what works and what doesn't work. Next. So we had Jeremy on this regimen for a period of about 7 months. And we started some light training. We really didn't see a lot of improvement. We saw still some lameness and some inflammation and pain. He was just not moving forward like we wanted him to see with comfort. We discussed adding additional oral joint supplements, but there was a lot of mixed data on their benefits. And we thought really that we already had him on the best that there was. And it's not saying that the products that we initially incorporated were not good products. They are good products, and they help horses a lot. But it just was not working for Jeremy, and the regimen was becoming too costly. So we took an opportunity to take a look at arthritis from a different approach, and we knew what was going on. We did what was going on inside the joint. We did some research. There is substantiated data indicating that mineral and dietary deficiencies will create the onset of arthritis. We know that there's free radical damage. We know that there's inflammation, and we can obviously see pain in the horses. Obviously, with x-rays, we are now able to see calcium deposits in the body's way of protecting the body and maintaining stability. We know that there's enzymatic damage, tissue damage, and we also looked at hydration of the joints. And this concept is a horse, a 1,000-pound horse or a 500-kilogram horse is almost 70% water. And if you're working a high-performance horse and that horse is dehydrated, the body will start using fluid from other areas of the body to maintain proper moisture in the lungs, proper muscle response, all those other things, and the joints are going to suffer in the process. So we need to address hydration. Our goal was, of course, to get the horse to move out again freely and without pain. Next. So along came Jeremy's Joint Jolt. The label will pop up for you, and there's really on the screen, it's difficult for you to read, but we will go through the ingredients so that you can understand how it works. A lot of people call into the office and they're looking for a joint supplement because they like the other products that we have to offer and the benefits that they're seeing from their horse. And when they ask about the Joint Jolt, they look at the label on the website or they look at it in the catalog, and they're questioning why this product doesn't have glucosamine sulfate in it, or chondroitin sulfate, or MSM. And the original thought here was, why create another product like that when there's so many out there already on the market that are good ones? And those weren't working for Jeremy, so we needed to create something that worked for horses like Jeremy, where they were not responding for whatever reason to the initial protocol. So some of the ingredients that are in Jeremy's Joint Jolt is flax meal, which acts as an anti-inflammatory, increases circulation, and provides lubrication. We have buckwheat, which contains the 8 essential amino acids. It's rich in minerals. It can act as a vasoprotective, or does have vasoprotective properties. It also acts as an anti-inflammatory, provides antioxidants, and is gluten-free. We've added chelated minerals, which reduce further calcification of the joint, increases mobility, and acts as an electrolyte or hydration for the body. Enzymes to reduce damage of destructive enzymes, antioxidants to battle free radical damage, additional amino acids for tissue repair, choline for neural repair, vitamins then to help reduce the stress for repair, and also those vitamins can act as or contain antioxidant properties. Next. So we had Jeremy on the Joint Jolt, and we were into the next riding season. And the riding season had started already, and it was mid-July of the following year. And so far on the experimental product and with training for endurance competition, we felt that it was time to try it again. Jeremy, of course, was ready to compete. For me, it was either high school reunion or ride Jeremy. So that was an easy decision. The first ride we decided to compete in was a 50-mile, and it was in Minnesota, which required a 12-hour drive, and we arrived there in 2 days. Jeremy passes the initial pre-ride vet check, and we start the 50-mile endurance competition at 6 o'clock the next morning. Jeremy leads the race. I'm a bit hesitant, but I have a heart monitor on him, which, if the heart rate increases, could indicate pain. We passed through 2 more vet checks, and there are 2 riders that have been haunting us the entire race. The terrain was highway, actual highway, and sand. The last 3 miles we were at a gallop, and the last half mile was a race to the finish line. And I don't know if you felt this or not, but that last half mile, I felt Jeremy drop almost like a foot with in the saddle, just because the length of his stride increased so much. So he came to the finish line first by a horse's length. We pass our post-ride vet check and rest for 1 hour. Then the veterinarians examine the top 10 placements for the prestigious Best Condition Award. And actually receiving this is better than winning the race. The award ceremony that evening, Jeremy received his first place award, which we knew he was going to receive, but he was announced as the best condition winner. In other words, the best conditioned horse, where they do check mobility, lameness, they check for hydration, gut sounds, capillary refill. I mean, they check everything 1 hour after the race. And Jeremy he passed with flying colors and was the horse to obtain that award. Jeremy raced for 2 more years on the Jeremy's Joint Jolt and was pivotal in the development of Ride Right Electrolyte, a Cushing's syndrome product, and a protocol for laminitis using Jeremy's Joint Jolt. Next. So the remainder of Jeremy's career, we utilized nutritional support only. When he came to us, he was on respiratory aids, and we did not use those at all for the remainder of his career. And we also did not use any joint injections or anything like that. So the remainder of his race career and the remainder of his life, he lived drug-free. So Joint Jolt, how do you use it, and where would you want to use it? The initial paragraph is the basic label instructions, which you will find on the label. Application of 1 level scoop twice daily for 7 days, and then you follow up with a maintenance application of 1/2 scoop twice daily. This can be added directly to the feed. You may fluctuate the dose. We have some horses that don't exhibit arthritis conditions in the wintertime, but do in the summer, and vice versa. When that happens, you can increase the Joint Jolt dosage to manage those symptoms during that time of year, or if you have any other stress going on in that animal at the time that brings on those conditions. The Joint Jolt is used for preventative maintenance. So younger horses starting out or horses in mid-career will provide, the Joint Jolt will provide nutritional support to maintain good, healthy joint structure. You can use the Joint Jolt post-surgery if there's bruising. Sometimes if you run on gravel without shoes, you can have hoof bruising, or maybe a slot from another horse, things like that, just whenever there might be soft tissue damage. When Jeremy started to exhibit symptoms of Cushing syndrome, and the symptom that he really just had the most, I didn't have the long hair coat, the increased consumption of water, but we did have bouts of laminitis. And I incorporated the Joint Jolt at that time just because it made sense. I couldn't keep him on the butte, and at that time I really didn't know what was going on. It was several years ago, and Cushing's wasn't even really in the verbiage at that time. So I used the Joint Jolt at a higher level. I used it along with our hoof supplement, and the two together provided hoof circulation, pain management, and of course that soft tissue repair. We of course know that we can use it for arthritis. It performs best with ABC Plus and Rush Creek. It might perform well with other products, but all I do know is that the horse must be nutritionally sound. The product is used strongly in the small animals. I've used it on my dogs as well and have sustained success with that. Next. As Jeremy was such a blessing to me, and as many of you could probably understand, I wanted to just kind of end this with an Arabian proverb. My treasures do not clink together or glitter. They gleam in the sun and neigh in the night. And Jeremy was that to me. To kind of sum up Jeremy's racing career, and I apologize for all the purple and green, but those were our racing colors. And since it's been so late in accessing this data, a lot of it's not accessible for us to really indicate how many miles or how many races he did compete in because he was donated to us. But as far as we know, he started racing in 1987 when he was 6 years old. His lifetime recorded mileage was 2,885 miles, and that was in a 6-year period. He had 56 ride starts and completed all 56 of those competitions. In endurance, the motto is to finish is to win. Those competitions included 100-mile races, 75-mile races, and 50s. He started in 8 100-mile races. 7 of those he top 10'd. He finished first place in 5 competitions and received 5 Best Condition Awards. And out of those 56 ride starts, he completed top 10 in 34. So I thank you for joining us tonight. And if you have any additional questions, I'd be more than happy to take those for you now.
Okay, Kendra, I do have one question that came in through my email today, so I wanted to bring that one up. Whenever there's a loading dose, like with Joint Jolt, do you need to redo the loading dose if the supplement has been interrupted for 1 week or for longer?
Depending upon the severity of the conditions, if you're not seeing symptoms strongly exhibited, it may not be necessary. But just as a preventative, if it were my horse, I would. It's just a 7-day period, and it would not hurt anything to run that again, the initial application for a 7-day period.